Decoded.
Ever crack open a fortune cookie and think, okay, that's wise, but what does it actually mean?
I know that feeling.
Sometimes understanding another culture can feel just as cryptic. But don't worry.
That's where we come in.
Welcome to Book Decoded.
We're your guides to unlocking those fascinating cultural secrets.
Forget those dry, dusty book summaries that leave you wanting more.
We're diving headfirst into the good stuff.
We'll be pulling out electrifying ideas, captivating stories,
And those aha moments that make you see the world in a whole new light.
Today, we're cracking open the Japanese mind, understanding contemporary Japanese culture.
Think of it as your all-access pass to the intricate and often surprising world of Japanese thought and behavior.
Now, our listeners, you guys are all about gaining knowledge quickly.
But thoroughly.
And this book is jam-packed with insights into those core concepts that have shaped Japan.
Whether you're into communication styles, the dynamics of their society, or even their amazing art.
We're going to extract those essential ideas.
So you get a solid understanding without feeling overwhelmed.
No information overload here. Our mission today is to explore some of the key building blocks of what this book calls the Japanese mind.
And these aren't just interesting tidbits. These are concepts that are super relevant in our increasingly interconnected world.
We'll be looking at things like the importance of group harmony, the subtle art of Japanese communication,
And some seriously fascinating values that are deeply ingrained in their culture.
But before we jump in, can you tell us a little about where this book came from? Like, who wrote it?
Well, what's really cool about this book is that it's actually a collection of essays written by students at Aimai University in Japan.
Oh, wow, so they're sharing their own culture with the world.
Exactly. And they were guided by their professors throughout the whole process.
So it's like a first-hand account, but with a strong academic backing.
You got it. Their aim was to illuminate, to really shed light on those aspects of Japanese culture that often seem complex or even mysterious to people from other backgrounds.
That makes so much sense. And I bet they really did their homework, right?
Oh, absolutely. They went deep. Each essay is rooted in super thorough research, drawing from a diverse range of sources.
Like what kind of sources?
Both Japanese and English texts. What's particularly valuable is that they tapped into a lot of Japanese materials that are often inaccessible to English speakers.
Oh, wow. So we're getting information we wouldn't normally have access to.
That's the beauty of it. You can really feel their dedication to in-depth research throughout the entire book.
It sounds like they weren't messing around.
Not at all. It was a rigorous process.
I can imagine.
The students went beyond just summarizing existing research.
So they weren't just regurgitating facts.
Nope. They took it a step further. They delved into existing research, of course, but then they developed their own interpretations, their own unique insights.
They put their own spin on it.
Exactly. This involved lots of drafting, revising, and engaging in some seriously focused discussions with their professors. The goal was to create essays of the highest academic quality,
Wow.
but written in clear, engaging English so that these intricate Japanese ideas could be understood by a wider audience.
So they weren't just writing for academics.
They wanted to make it accessible to everyone. And it's important to remember that many of these cultural concepts we're talking about, they're still actively discussed and debated within Japanese society itself.
So it's not like everything's set in stone.
Definitely not. The student authors weren't trying to offer definitive answers.
They're not saying this is the only way to see it.
Not at all. They aimed for a balanced and well-researched overview.
More like opening up a conversation.
Precisely.
Mm.
They wanted to encourage critical thinking and really highlight the importance of understanding Japan's rich cultural history.
As a starting point.
Yeah, as a foundation for deeper learning and further discussion.
So it's more about opening a door to understanding rather than giving a final verdict. I love that.
Me too. And to make sure this collection of essays felt cohesive, the book went through a pretty thorough editorial process
Just polish it up.
to ensure a high level of sophistication and consistency in the voice, which is so important when you have multiple authors.
Yeah, you want it to flow seamlessly.
Exactly. The editors refined the essays, and in some cases, they combined or even merged some of them.
To give it a more unified feel.
You got it. It was all about making sure the reader had a smooth and coherent experience.
So this wasn't just a purely theoretical exercise, was
Oh,
it?
no, not at all. These essays were actually used in real courses at Eheim University over a period of 2 years.
Oh, wow. So they got real student feedback.
They did. And the students in those courses, they provided invaluable feedback on the content, and the professors even developed discussion activities based on the students' input.
So it was a truly interactive and iterative process.
It was a real-world testing ground for these ideas. And there's actually a really cool element to this whole project. The proceeds from the book sales, they go towards a fantastic cause.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
They're used to establish a scholarship fund at Aimai University.
That's amazing.
Isn't it great? This fund supports students who might not otherwise be able to afford their education.
That's wonderful.
It's specifically for students pursuing studies in English and international communication.
So it all comes back to fostering understanding across cultures. It's just beautiful. And for you, our listener, who's interested in gaining deep knowledge and exploring diverse perspectives, this book offers a really unique opportunity.
It gives you direct access to insights from Japanese individuals reflecting on their own culture.
Now, let's dive into some of those key insights. This book talks a lot about group consciousness, or shūdan Isshiki. So what exactly is shūdan Isshiki, and what does it look like in action?
It's like the glue that holds Japanese society together.
It's that important.
It's a fundamental concept. It basically means that Japanese culture puts a big emphasis on the harmony and well-being of the group as a whole.
So it's more about we than me.
In a way, yes. It's a cultural preference for the collective over the individual.
Does that mean people don't have their own individual identities?
Not at all. It's more that loyalty and contribution to the group, those are considered really important values, and those values create a really powerful sense of unity and belonging.
So it's not about erasing individual identity, it's more about working together towards a common goal.
That's a great way to put it. Think of it like rowing a boat. Everyone needs to paddle in sync to move forward.
That's a great analogy, I get it.
Groups in Japan, whether it's a work team, a school club, or even a circle of friends, they tend to develop their own kind of unspoken rules and shared understandings.
So it's like every group has its own mini culture.
You could say that. It's about knowing how to behave within that specific group, how things are done, what's expected of you.
That makes sense. Now, you mentioned uchi and soto earlier. How do those concepts fit into this idea of group consciousness?
Those are really key distinctions in understanding Japanese social dynamics.
Okay, break it down for us.
Uchi refers to your in-group, the people you consider to be part of your inner circle.
So like your family, your closest friends, your core team at work.
Exactly. It's the people you feel a strong sense of connection with, the people you can really let your guard down with. Then there's soto, which refers to the out-group.
The people who are outside that close circle.
Right. And this distinction between uchi and soto, it really shapes how people interact in Japan.
So how you treat someone depends on whether they're in or out.
To some extent, yes. There's generally more formality and a bit more reserve when interacting with people in the soto group.
So you're more careful, more polite.
Exactly. But within the uchi group, there's often a deep sense of emotional connection and shared understanding. However, and this is where it gets interesting, this emphasis on unity can sometimes make it difficult to openly criticize others within the group.
Because you don't want to rock the boat.
Precisely. There's a fear that open criticism might disrupt the harmony.
Cause conflict.
Right. And this can actually contribute to a degree of ambiguity in communication, which is another key concept in understanding the Japanese mind.
So wanting to keep the peace might lead to people not always being completely direct with their opinions.
Exactly. And that brings us to the fascinating role of ambiguity, or Aimai, in Japanese culture.
Okay, I am. What's that all about?
Well, Aimai essentially means ambiguity, a lack of directness.
So not always saying exactly what's on your mind.
You got it. But here's the thing. In many social situations, Aimai isn't necessarily seen as a bad thing.
It's not like people are trying to be sneaky or deceptive.
Not at all. In fact, Aimai is often valued as a way to preserve harmony and make compromise easier.
Interesting. So it's more like a social strategy.
In a way, yes. It allows people to navigate potentially sensitive situations without causing offense.
It sounds like a lot of reading between the lines.
You could say that. Japanese people are incredibly attuned to what we might call the atmosphere of a social setting. They're really good at picking up on unspoken thoughts and feelings.
So they're very sensitive to nonverbal cues.
And this ties into the concept of politeness in a big way. The idea is that if you're too direct, if you spell everything out, it can imply that the other person isn't aware of the situation or your feelings, which can be seen as a bit rude.
That's so interesting. In many Western cultures, being direct is often valued as being honest and straightforward. But in Japan, it can be considered a bit insensitive.
It can come across that way, yes. It can make the other person feel like you're not giving them a face, like you're not respecting their ability to understand the situation.
Wow, that's a really different perspective.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of how this Amae, this ambiguity plays out in everyday life?
Absolutely. Let's say someone wants to politely decline an invitation. Instead of a flat-out no, which can sound harsh, they might use phrases like chōtō.
Chōtō.
It means a little or a bit difficult.
Okay.
Or they might say demo, which means but.
So they're hinting at a reason without actually saying no.
Exactly. Or they might say kangate okune, which means I'll think about it.
Which gives them a way to politely decline without closing the door completely.
These aren't necessarily firm rejections, but rather gentle ways of expressing reluctance without causing offense.
So it's all about maintaining that positive social atmosphere.
Exactly. And this can sometimes lead to misunderstandings in cross-cultural communication.
I can imagine.
Someone from a more direct culture might perceive these responses as hesitant or unclear.
Like the person's not really giving you a straight answer.
Right. But often it's simply a reflection of these cultural norms of politeness and a desire to avoid direct confrontation.
So they might actually disagree with you, but express it in a way that softens the blow.
You got it. They're trying to preserve the relationship and avoid creating any tension.
It's almost the opposite of that Western saying, say what you mean and mean what you say.
Haha, yeah. In Japan, it's more like imply what you mean gently while considering the feelings of others.
It's a whole different art form. Now, this book also delves into the concept of Amae. What is Amae exactly?
It's a fascinating concept that's often described as the desire to be passively loved and cared for.
Passively love.
It's like that feeling of dependence a young child has towards their mother. It's wanting to be nurtured without having to explicitly ask for it.
Like, I just want you to know what I need without me having to say it.
Exactly. It's that deep, almost instinctive longing to be taken care of.
So it's rooted in that early parent-child bond.
That's where it starts, and it's really fascinating how it connects to other important Japanese concepts like enryo.
Enryo. What does that mean?
Enryo is all about restraint, holding back, being reserved. It's closely related to the idea of not wanting to burden others.
Interesting. So it's like you're being considerate of other people's time and energy.
Exactly. And there's giri, which is a sense of social obligation or duty.
So you feel a responsibility to fulfill certain roles and expectations within relationships.
Precisely. And then there's sumi, which is a feeling of guilt or a sense of having done something wrong.
And haji, which I think means shame.
Right. Shame in the sense of not living up to social expectations or disappointing someone. All these concepts, they're intertwined with the dynamics of Amae.
So it's a whole web of interconnected ideas.
It is, and it's fascinating to see how they all play out in real life. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but isn't this Amae thing just a childhood thing?
Well, that's what I was wondering. Does this desire to be taken care of, does it disappear as we grow up?
Not necessarily. In Japanese culture, Amae actually extends into adult relationships as well. You can see elements of it in the dynamics between husbands and wives, teachers and students, and even doctors and patients.
So it represents a certain kind of closeness, a sense of interdependence.
Exactly. It's about relying on each other and feeling comfortable enough to express those needs, even if they're not explicitly stated.
That's so different from the emphasis on independence that we often see in Western cultures.
It is. Now think about how this influences everyday interactions. One significant way is that it can make it difficult for many Japanese people to say no directly.
Oh, because refusing a request would feel like you're rejecting that amae, that sense of closeness and interdependence.
You hit the nail on the head. It's seen as potentially disruptive to the harmony of the relationship.
It makes sense in a culture that values group harmony and interdependence so highly. You wouldn't want to risk hurting someone's feelings or damaging the relationship.
Exactly. And that's why you often see Amae expressed through customs like offering gifts or treating someone to a meal.
So these gestures are more than just being polite. They're about strengthening the bonds of Amae.
Precisely. They're a way of creating a sense of indebtedness and reinforcing those feelings of closeness and obligation. It's all about nurturing that interdependent relationship.
Wow, it makes me see gift-giving in a whole new light.
And what's really fascinating is that the scholar Doi, who did extensive research on Amae, he suggested that this desire to be passively loved and cared for it might actually be universal.
You mean it's not just a Japanese thing?
He believes it's present in all cultures, it's just expressed in different ways.
So maybe we experience Amae in our own relationships, even if we don't have a specific word for it.
That's something to ponder. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about another key concept from the book. Nemawashi.
Nemawashi. Okay, what's that all about?
This one is particularly intriguing because it offers a glimpse into how things get done in Japanese business and social contexts.
I'm all ears.
Nemawashi literally means digging around the roots.
Like preparing a tree for transplanting.
You got it. That's the literal meaning. And in a social or business setting, it refers to this very Japanese style of negotiation or decision-making.
Yep.
It's all about laying the groundwork behind the scenes.
So it's like the prep work that happens before the official meeting or decision.
Exactly. The goal of Nemawashi is to achieve a broad consensus and get everyone on board before a proposal or decision is formally presented.
So you're making sure everyone's comfortable with the idea before you put it out there publicly.
Exactly. It's all about preventing conflict and ensuring a smooth and harmonious outcome.
It sounds a bit like what we might call informal lobbying in other cultures, where you try to get people on your side before a big decision is made.
There are definitely similarities, but Nemawashi is a bit more nuanced. It's not just about getting people to agree with you, it's about genuinely understanding their concerns and addressing them proactively.
So it's about building consensus through careful one-on-one conversations.
You got it. While some people might view Nemawashi as being a bit too indirect or even manipulative, in Japan, it's widely considered an essential part of maintaining harmonious relationships, and it's often seen as a key factor in achieving successful outcomes.
So it's not about winning an argument or pushing your own agenda.
No, it's about finding a solution that works for everyone.
A very collaborative approach. It's a fascinating glimpse into a different way of doing business and making decisions.
Now, we've covered quite a lot. We've explored group consciousness, the art of ambiguous communication, the concept of Amae, and the consensus building of Nemawashi.
Whew, that's a lot of information. What are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that these concepts are all interconnected. They're like pieces of a puzzle that fit together to create a picture of the Japanese mind.
So it's not about looking at these ideas in isolation.
Exactly. We've seen how this deep value placed on group harmony influences communication styles, leading to the subtle art of Aimai. We've explored how M shapes interpersonal relationships and explains why direct refusal can be so tricky. And we've discovered how Nemawashi provides a structured way to build consensus and avoid conflict.
It's all about finding that balance between individual needs and the needs of the group.
Precisely. And understanding these concepts gives us a much richer understanding of Japanese culture.
And it's not just about Japan, right? It makes us think about how different cultures approach communication and decision-making in general.
Absolutely. It encourages us to step outside our own cultural framework and consider the different ways people interact and build relationships around the world.
It's about expanding our perspective and becoming more culturally sensitive and aware.
Now, here's a final thought for you, our listener, to ponder. We've talked about how indirectness and group harmony are highly valued in Japanese culture.
But we also live in a world that's becoming increasingly globalized, with more emphasis on directness and individual expression.
Right. So the question is, how can these two seemingly contrasting values coexist? Will Japanese culture adapt? Will it find ways to integrate more directness without sacrificing its core values?
Those are some big questions, and ones we encourage you to reflect on. This deep dive has really just scratched the surface of the Japanese mind.
There's so much more to explore.
We highly recommend checking out the Japanese Mind if you're interested in learning more. It's full of fascinating insights and might even spark some new ideas about your own cultural background and communication style.
Thanks for joining us on Book Decoded.
We look forward to unpacking another intriguing read with you next time.
See you then.